The winding forest road seemed to stretch endlessly before us as we made our way to the cabin. My wife, Elena, sat beside me, her face a mixture of exhaustion and irritation. In the back seat, our daughter Sophia, barely 6 years old, had finally fallen asleep after hours of excited chatter about our weekend getaway. As dusk settled over the Colorado wilderness, we arrived at our destination, a rustic 2-story cabin nestled among towering pines. The fading light cast long shadows across the wraparound porch, giving the place an eerie quality that sent a shiver down my spine. I chalked it up to fatigue from the long drive and the stress of changing a flat tire on the treacherous forest road. "Well, we're here," I announced, trying to inject some enthusiasm into my voice. Elena merely nodded, her lips pressed into a thin line. Our plans for a relaxing evening had been dashed by our late arrival, and the mood was decidedly sour. As we unloaded the car, Sophia stirred and let out a squeal of delight upon seeing the porch swing. She bolted towards it, her earlier fatigue forgotten in her excitement. Elena and I exchanged a weary glance before hauling our bags inside. The cabin's interior took us by surprise. While the exterior exuded a classy, minimalist charm, the inside was cluttered with an assortment of knickknacks covering every available surface. Vintage oil lamps, compasses, and wooden animal carvings crowded the shelves and tabletops. Elena's quiet interesting spoke volumes about her displeasure, but I found the decor oddly charming in its quirkiness. After coaxing Sophia off the swing, we headed upstairs to settle in for the night. The smaller of the 2 bedrooms was clearly designed for children, with colorful toys and plushies scattered about. A large teddy bear sat on the bed, partially tucked under the covers as if waiting for a child to join it. Sophia's eyes lit up at the sight, but I hesitated, wary of the hygiene of a communal stuffed animal. I compromised by propping it up on a nearby chair before tucking Sophia in. Exhausted from our journey, Elena and I retired to the master bedroom soon after. As I drifted off to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was slightly off about our idyllic getaway. Saturday dawned bright and clear, perfect for our planned day at the lake. After a quick breakfast, we gathered our kayaks and set off down the short trail to the shore. As we passed the nearest neighboring cabin, an ornate structure that looked far older than ours, I noticed an elderly woman sitting on the porch. I offered a friendly nod, but her blank stare in return sent a chill through me. "What was that about?" I whispered to Elena once we were out of earshot. She shrugged. "Maybe she's not happy about the Airbnb next door." I glanced back to see the woman now standing at the bottom of her porch steps, her gaze still fixed on us. Elena and I quickened our pace, Sophia skipping ahead, blissfully unaware of the tension. The lake was breathtaking, its crystal-clear waters reflecting the surrounding mountains. As we paddled out, I spotted the old woman at the tree line, her eyes never leaving us. I waved again, but received only a glower in response. An uneasy feeling settled in my stomach, but I pushed it aside, determined to enjoy our family outing. The rest of the day passed without incident, filled with swimming, hiking, and laughter. That evening we roasted marshmallows over a campfire, Sophia insisting on bringing Mr. Bear to join us. As I watched my daughter cuddling the stuffed animal, I wondered how we'd convince her to leave it behind when we departed. After putting Sophia to bed, Elena and I enjoyed a quiet evening before turning in around 10:30. I had just begun to drift off when a sound jolted me awake. A knock at the front door. I checked my phone. Midnight exactly. 3 more knocks followed in quick succession. Heart pounding, I gently shook Elena awake and crept to the window. In the dim porch light, I could make out the shadow of a figure standing unnaturally close to the door. Telling Alina to stay upstairs, I made my way down to the living room, pausing to peer through the curtains. Still, I could see nothing but a shadow. With growing unease, I retrieved my handgun from its lockbox and approached the door. "Can I help you?" I called out, my voice steady despite my racing pulse. Instead of a response, there came another urgent knock. "Look, friend," I said, my patience wearing thin, "if you need help, speak up, otherwise I'm calling the police." The knocking ceased, and after a moment of tense silence, a soft, nervous female voice spoke. "He's watching your daughter through the bear." Those words sent ice through my veins. I cracked open the door, gun at the ready, only to see the elderly woman from the neighboring cabin hurrying away into the darkness. I called after her, demanding an explanation, but she vanished into the night without a backward glance. Shaken, I relayed the encounter to Elena. Together, we crept into Sophia's room and gently extricated the teddy bear from her sleeping arms. Downstairs, we laid it out on the kitchen counter like a patient prepped for surgery. With trembling hands, I took a pair of kitchen shears to the plush toy, pulling out its stuffing in search of hidden cameras or listening devices. Finding nothing in the cotton innards, we turned our attention to the bear's large glass eyes. Using a wrench, I smashed them to bits, sifting through the fragments for any sign of electronics. To our immense relief, we found nothing suspicious, but questions lingered. How did the old woman know about the bear? Was she trying to scare us away, or was there something more sinister at play? Sleep eluded us that night as we took turns checking on Sophia, jumping at every creak and groan of the old cabin. Sunday morning brought relentless rain, dashing our plans for a hike. Sophia's discovery of Mr. Bear's disappearance only added to the gloomy atmosphere. We decided to salvage the day with a trip into the nearby town, hoping to distract ourselves from the previous night's unsettling events. As we settled in for an early lunch at a quaint local restaurant, Elena realized she'd forgotten Sophia's EpiPen. Feeling guilty and eager to make amends, I volunteered to drive back to the cabin to retrieve it, while they waited at the restaurant. The rain-slicked dirt roads made the short drive treacherous. By the time I reached the cabin, my mood had soured considerably. I slammed the front door behind me, ready to grab the EpiPen and leave, when something stopped me in my tracks. A trail of muddy footprints, leading up the stairs. My blood ran cold as I realized the implications. Someone had entered the cabin since we'd left, and judging by the single set of prints, they were likely still inside. The upper floor was shrouded in darkness, the storm outside blocking out most of the natural light. I stood frozen on the landing, straining my eyes for any sign of movement in the shadows above. Slowly, carefully, I backed down the stairs, my gaze never leaving the upper floor. Once I reached the bottom, I turned and ran for the car, fumbling for my phone to call the police. The wait for their arrival felt interminable. I sat in my car, eyes locked on the cabin, searching for any sign of the intruder. But the house remained still and silent, offering no clues as to what might be happening inside. When the police finally arrived, their dismissive attitude only added to my frustration. They seemed skeptical of my claims, asking for proof of the break-in, as if I should have stopped to take photos while fleeing for my life. Their cursory search of the cabin turned up empty, but the muddy footprints were undeniable evidence that someone had been there. Unwilling to let my family spend another night in the cabin, I began packing our belongings while the officers stood watch. To my surprise, nothing of value appeared to be missing, not even my laptop that had been left in plain sight. As I entered Sophia's room to gather her things, a chill ran down my spine. The wooden animal carvings on the mantel were exactly as we'd left them, save for one glaring absence. In the center, a circular impression in the dust marked where the bear figurine had stood, now conspicuously missing. Someone had taken the bear? With shaking hands, I finished packing and ushered my family out of the cabin, eager to put as much distance as possible between us and the unsettling events of the weekend. As we drove away, I couldn't shake the feeling that we were leaving something behind. Something more than just a stuffed animal and a wooden carving. In the weeks that followed, we tried to put the incident behind us. But late at night, when the house was quiet and still, I found myself lying awake, wondering about the old woman's warning and the missing bear. What had she meant? Who or what had been watching our daughter? One night, unable to sleep, I decided to do some research on the cabin and its surroundings. As I scrolled through local news archives, a headline caught my eye. "Local man missing, last seen near Picken County cabin." The article, dated just a few months before our visit, detailed the disappearance of a father who had been vacationing with his family in a cabin eerily similar to the one we had rented. My heart raced as I read on, discovering a pattern of disappearances in the area over the past few years. All of them involved families with young children, all staying in cabins near the lake. And in each case, witnesses reported seeing an elderly woman in the vicinity shortly before the disappearances. A chill ran down my spine as I recalled the old woman's words. "He's watching your daughter through the bear." Could it be that we had narrowly escaped becoming part of this sinister pattern? I was about to close my laptop when a new email notification popped up. The sender was unknown, but the subject line made my blood run cold. "She misses her bear." With trembling fingers, I opened the email. There was no message, just a single attachment. I hesitated for a moment before clicking to open it. The image that appeared on my screen stole the breath from my lungs. It was a photo of Sophia's room in the cabin, taken from an angle that seemed impossible, as if the camera had been placed high in a corner near the ceiling. In the center of the frame was Sophia's bed, and sitting atop it was the missing teddy bear, its eyes gleaming unnaturally in the dim light. But it was the background that truly terrified me. There, barely visible in the shadows behind the bear, was a figure. Tall and unnaturally thin, with long, spindly limbs and a face hidden in darkness. One elongated hand rested possessively on the bear's head. I slammed the laptop shut, my heart pounding in my chest. For a long moment, I sat in the darkness of my home office, trying to process what I had seen. Then, slowly, I rose and made my way to Sophia's room. I stood in the doorway watching my daughter's peaceful sleep and made a silent vow. Whatever was out there, whatever had been watching us through that bear, would never touch my family again. We had escaped once, but I knew now that our ordeal was far from over. As I turned to leave, a floorboard creaked behind me. I spun around, my heart in my throat, half expecting to see the elongated figure from the photo. But the hallway was empty, filled only with shadows and the quiet sounds of our sleeping home. Yet as I made my way back to bed, I couldn't shake the feeling that somewhere in the darkness, something was watching, waiting, and I knew that one day it would come for us again. The bear, after all, was just the beginning.